So what's your name?
My name's Melanie Grey.
And where do you work?
I work at Historic Christ Church in Alexandria, Virginia.
And how long have you been working here?
It'll be 5 years in August.
What sparked your interest in your field of work in this job?
So I'm a social worker by training. I have a master's degree in social work. And what drew me to that field was a real compassion for human beings, and also believing that often with a little help, our lives can become healthy and stable. And just caring about everyone in society, frankly, and social justice.
So what does your job entail on a day-to-day basis?
So currently, it's a very unique position to be a social worker in a church. So I'm the only full-time social worker in the Diocese of Virginia. So Christ Church has invested a lot in outreach and mission. So I oversee 15 outreach ministries here in the city of Alexandria. That includes running the largest weekly food pantry in the city. And then I oversee 3 overseas missions in Honduras, South Sudan, and Uganda. So it's a very unique, large job. And one of the biggest things we do, though, is provide financial assistance to people living in the city of Alexandria who are about to become homeless or have their utilities turned off, or they can't pay their medical bills. So I spend a lot of time and energy on that.
Has there been a specific moment in your job that's kind of stuck with you that you'll never forget?
Yes, lots of them. But I think when it comes to the refugees who are coming here with special immigration visas from Kabul, from Afghanistan, that's a unique group of people in that they worked for our armed forces. They worked for our army as translators, doctors, engineers, so professional people, very intelligent people who had no choice but to leave for their own safety. Because the Taliban see them as traitors, basically. So they come here often with the clothes on their backs, and they get here and they get 90 days of help, 90 days of financial assistance, and then it stops. So if you're not self-sufficient in 90 days.
Where do they get the funding for those 90 days?
It is federal funding.
Okay.
That is given out to called relocation agencies. So Lutheran Social Services, Catholic Charities, and Ethiopian Relief are the 3 in our area that receive those funds.
And where do you guys get your funding to help them through?
All of my funding is through grants and individual donations and donations from churches. Oh. So we spend about $47,000 a year just on these families. The average number of months they need help, financial help, is about 4 months, which I think is pretty remarkable. But we're being very strategic during that time because they have a care team that's assigned to them. So they're focusing on, do we need to get them a car? Do we need to get them enrolled in school? Do we need to get them a laptop? What is going to make them successful? So each family has a care team. And the other cool thing is that this is a bunch of churches coming together. It's not just Christ Church. So it's Catholics, Baptists, Methodists, Episcopalians, Lutherans, all come together just for that group of people.
Wow.
And what stuck with me with all these families is the level of fear and hopelessness that I've never seen in my years of social work. Because I think if you were to become homeless here, you know people. You speak English, you know the systems, you know people who would look out for you. These people are nobody. So it stuck out to me so much that I started a separate ministry just for these families. Yeah.
And what do you think could make this transition easier for these families?
Well, some of these families are relocated to places like Mobile, Alabama, where there aren't Muslims. So being mindful of where they're relocated to and knowing that there are people who speak Dari, school systems that can embrace them on a more global level, but I think also educating them about the resources as quickly as possible. Because they've often watched a lot of American television where they think like things are way worse than they are, or that homeless shelters are terrible places, or so educating them about the good things, but also about the scams, credit cards, accounts being drained. So that, what we've done is develop supports for each family, and I think that's part of the solution.
Is there something you wish people knew more about these people's stories so they could have a better understanding?
Yes, I think people hear the word refugee and they have no idea their level of education, their competence, their desire to be successful here. I would like them to hear these stories, but also realize that they sacrificed their lives. Several of the people who we're working with here were shot multiple times by the Taliban. One family lost their 19-year-old son to a suicide bombing at the American University of Kabul. They deserve to be here.
And in terms of what they have access to once they get here, do you think it'd be more beneficial for them to have like English lessons and places where they can go, like community centers?
So those exist. Most of these families, at least one person speaks English. So sometimes that's true of the husband, and we have a wife who's not literate in her own language. So every family's unique, but we offer English classes here. We had 174 students last semester. We have 9 different levels of English. So we immediately try to get them enrolled in English classes. So we try to look at all those barriers and break them down. I would say healthcare is a big one. Dental care is not covered by Medicaid. A lot of folks come here with really bad teeth. And I'm not talking just visibly bad, I'm talking painfully bad. So that's something we're still looking for, is dental care that's affordable. The biggest other challenge is people with post-traumatic stress syndrome. Because of the things they've witnessed and have been exposed to, finding mental health treatment is a real big issue.
How many people or families does this church help?
31 as of last week.
Wow.
Yeah.
How often do you get a new family?
Well, it's slowed down. So resettling has stopped. The finances are done for those 3 agencies.
Okay.
So anyone we see now is coming from someplace like Mobile, Alabama. So they've already been relocated. They've heard this is a refugee-friendly area, and they're coming in sort of through the back door. So it's really been slow. And I'm not really looking to add on, I'm not aggressively in the community pursuing it because I'm so focused on the families we have. I will say right now, 100% of them have someone full-time employed in the household,
Wow.
which is huge. Yeah. And we've been at the births of, I don't even know how many babies thus far.
Oh, so you're in contact with all the families?
Yes, and
Close
through these
contact.
care teams, yes.
Okay.
So the care teams are made up of 2 or 3 volunteers who are just focused on their family. And so it's been really like life-giving to the churches to have this ministry be so involved. I think right now, I don't know what your politics are, but in our country, people are feeling like they want to do something
Right.
that's positive, that's making a difference. And so for a lot of churches, this is their thing. I even have a church in McLean who is volunteering with us because there's nothing where they live like this. Yeah, and these kids are amazing. Like every one of their children is doing well in school and wants to be in school. They all get sad during like spring break because they like school so much.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's really cool.
And so the ages range from what,
Birth
infant
to 21.
Wow.
Yep.
What do you think? Do a lot of them go to college or end up attending?
No. Well, it's okay. So if you're the head of household and you were an engineer, you cannot get your transcripts or any paperwork showing you did what you did. So you have no evidence of your professional background.
Yeah.
So I have people like a man who was an engineer. We just paid for him to go through HVAC training. He's
Okay.
learning to be an air conditioning repairman. Does he want to be an air conditioning repairman? Heck no. He wants to be an engineer.
Yeah.
The only way to do that would be for him to go back to school.
Right.
So in some ways, we're paying for people to get what's called a safety job, or a job that's
Right.
going to keep them going. It's very hard to get them back in their professions. Like the doctor will probably never be a doctor again. And that's really hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, the credentials all kind of stay there. It's difficult. There are a couple people who've been able to go back into their field with USAID, because that's what they did in Kabul. And there's a record of that because it was directly with the work they did could translate to the work here. But no, we have another engineer who stocks shelves at Walmart in the middle of the night. And there's a lot of depression with these folks. Yeah, because they're living in overcrowded conditions. Not one of them has adequate bedrooms. I mean, the newest family is a family of 5 twin 3-year-olds, a 5-year-old. Their 7-year-old died a couple months before they were able to leave Kabul. They are living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and we found out they had not one piece of furniture since November. Nothing. So it's like within 48 hours, we were able to get a lot of things in place.
Wow.
But
Is like counseling provided for these families?
Yeah.
So it's something they have to do on their own?
or find on their own, and it's not typical like the kind of therapist you or I might go to.
Mhm.
These people need to have specialized in
Right.
post-traumatic stress and just the cultural shifts and the loss of everything. It has not been easy to find therapists who are trained in that work and then to pay for it,
Right.
because you don't need it. It is, even with a sliding scale, and it's not something you do once. It's something you start it, you need to know you can complete it, and not just stop treatment. So it has it's different than buying a laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And where do these families usually go to live?
that's a good question. So the city of Alexandria is 11 square miles. Affordable housing, a lot of it does not exist.
Yeah.
If you go
Right.
east of Quaker Lane. It's west of Quaker Lane. So if you think of like around where your school is, to Beauregard, that's affordable housing. So that's where they all live. And they all live in fear because they have too many people living in their units.
Right.
So we have one family in particular, he just doesn't let his kids out because he doesn't want anybody out there counting how many people. And they don't ever leave at the same time.
And what about transportation? Do they take public
It's important to
transportation?
learn public
Yeah.
transportation. A lot of the folks start out as Uber or Lyft drivers. So I actually, if they can't get a car on their own, we work with a program in Falls Church called the Car Ministry. It's one guy named Larry, and his whole retirement is spent getting cars, refurbishing them, and getting them to refugees.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have a family right now who's number 4 on the list waiting for the car, but you can earn significant money being an Uber or Lyft driver.
Right.
Even if you work at, Taco Bell, you still have hours where you can make money and you're in control of it. So we do try to get cars as long as people can pay their insurance. The school system has been great with these families, so that's been really good. And then T.C. Williams is phenomenal. So when we have people your age come in, they have the International Academy there.
Oh, yeah.
So that they immediately go into that and they're tested in terms of their English and then brought up to speed, and it's just a really good program. Yeah. Yeah, anything else?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you so
you.
much. Thank you.
Yeah.